Hello, my name's Gavin, this is Genre Books, and I don't entirely know what I'm going to end up saying in this video. I think it's really going to be about individual preferences and choice, but it is talking about the most difficult type of writing to do well in, and that's comedy. This video came about purely by chance. My tote bag of mild peril is the mechanism that I randomly choose books from the bookshelf to go through. In September, it decided I was going to be reading A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole. September was also Shake-tember, and I had already made a decision to read No Bed for Bacon by Carol Brahms and S.J. Simon. Around the same time, I saw a video from Grammaticus Books where he was talking about his experiences reading Lord of the Rings, the Harvard Lampoon take on Lord of the Rings. And I thought, I'm reading 2 comedy books already, I'll add this comedy book. And I had picked up a couple of months before on a charity shelf in a supermarket National Lampoon's Doon, the parody of Dune. So, to break up all those Shakespeare history plays I was reading, I ended up reading 4 humorous books, but I only found 3 of them funny, and I was asking myself why. I'm going to go through 10 types of comedy to see where these books fall on that scale, to try to figure out where the one that falls down. What makes something funny, and why do I think Lord of the Rings failed? Number 1. Hyperbole or understatement. So purposefully overblowing certain ideas, underplaying those same ideas for comic effect. So taking something that's not quite so funny and magnifying it to make it ridiculous, or taking something that is ridiculous and trying to normalise it. I don't really think No Bed for Bacon does this. I think Confederacy of Dunces does do this. The letters between Ignatius and Myrna, their correspondence is over the top. The situations go over the top. So yes, there's some hyperbole here. I don't think you can say it's about either of these 2 books. That's not what they are attempting to do. Number 2, incongruity, inversion. So we're looking at basically absurdism, silliness. And I think all 4 do this. These 2 books certainly do, because we have a set established idea of the universes these books are taking place in, and the actions and the names and the characters are just purposefully out of place. The Elizabethan court and the Elizabethan world is also a fairly well understood place, and the silliness that occurs here certainly qualifies this book on this point. Some of the scrapes that Ignatius finds himself in certainly count on the absurdist incongruity front as well, but not inversion. But for the 3rd type of comedy, slapstick, I think this does qualify. There is enough physical comedy described here to say that this is a component of the comedy in this book. It's present in No Bed for Bacon, but it's not the main thrust of the comedy. There are some minor characters in this book who are the professional comedy players at the theatre, and I mean, this is pure slapstick, but also a joke about slapstick that they invent, the custard pie fight. And it doesn't appear in these books. And I think if any book was trying to tick all of this list off, then it would fail by trying too hard to do things all over the place. The fourth tenet of comedy is something that these lampoons also don't fulfill, and that is surprise. I mean, there is subversion in how they are telling the story, but we know the story of Lord of the Rings. We know the story of Doon, so we know what's going to happen. And even though we know that it's going to treat it in a comedic fashion, there is no surprise in the plot. Nor do I think it plays a big part in a Confederacy of Dunces. The characters, all of them, are so well drawn, even in their monstrosity, that their actions don't come as surprises. In fact, I don't think any of the books qualify for the surprise comedy, nor really do any of them fulfill the fifth tenet, which would be sarcasm. There's nothing so mean-spirited in all these books. Ignatius, in his interactions with people, in his correspondence with people, tries to be sarcastic. But a character doing something within the book, or acting a certain way within the book, is not the book itself being sarcastic. And as he always fails, people misunderstand him, aren't paying attention, then even within the confines of the book, I don't think it's a success. Number 6 is irony. And again, I don't think any of these books are specifically ironic. They are all, in their own ways, far too much in your face to be so detached as to be described as ironic. But number 7, situational, is definitely where most of these shine. The stupid situations in this book are just fantastic. And they have delicious lead-ups to this as well. The tasting of the first potato is built up and built up and built up. And you know it's going to be something of a damp squib. The fuss about the new cape Sir Walter Raleigh wants to get, again, is built up over the course of the novel. And although you can see the joke coming a mile off, even, especially if you know a little bit about the history, it is delicious when it happens. It isn't even, the punchline isn't even described. This book has too much class to simply tell you the joke. But this whole book is written a little bit like a sitcom. The characters are all out of place. Characters that we know from history are engaging in farce. And yet it's glorious carnivalesque nonsense. Similarly, the situations that Ignatius finds himself in, mostly work of his own doing, but again, largely farcical. And there are farcical elements in these books as well, but these are linked more to the incongruity side of things. But number 8, repetition. Certainly where these things come into their own. The same jokes are repeated over and again. Not always to great effect, but the character traits, the phrases, the situations are repeated many times. And I think part of the comedy there is you know what's going to happen. It's the anticipation that is almost like the funny part of this. There are a few repeated jokes here, mostly at Shakespeare's expense. He can't write properly. His handwriting, I mean, obviously he can write. His handwriting is terrible. And he is constantly trying out new variations of the spelling of his own name. A joke so good that Shakespeare in Love decided to take it wholesale. And the build-up to the great events in this obviously involve a lot of repetition as well. And Ignatius has his stock phrases. There's not so much repetition in the events of this book, but his reaction to all the events is, again, predictable, and the comedy comes out of waiting for that to happen. Number 9, puns. Now, here we have clear blue water. There aren't puns in a Confederacy of Dunces. There aren't puns, or very few, in No Bed for Bacon. There is nothing but puns in these books. In fact, I think there's probably too much, and I get it. It's an easy joke. You have all the characters' names from Doon, from Lord of the Rings, already established in your mind. So when you're introduced to someone who's got a slightly different name, but you can tell exactly who it is, yeah, there could be a laugh there. This book rams a point home by having a glossary of the terms of the Imperium, which is basically just repeating all of the puns that you've read in the preceding book. But yes, they score highly on the pun scale, those Harvard and National Lampoons. And then there is satire. Now, satire isn't always funny, but it can be. And I think, to an extent, all of these books are satirical. I think No Bed for Bacon can be seen as satirising what was modern life. Obviously, it's not modern now for us because this is from the 1940s. Confederacy of Dunces is a satire. It's a satire of society, business, academia, not always laugh out loud, but not infrequently so. And with these books, there is obviously satire here, but they are satirising other works of literature. Where there is satirisation of society, it doesn't really rise above that pun level. They can't depart too much from the plots that they are lampooning. In a way, these books have free rein. In another way, they are severely constrained. So those are the 10 types of comedy. You could add an 11th. I didn't see filth. But and there's a little bit of filth in both of those lampoon books. Not quite so much in the other two. But whether you find something funny can't be reduced to a checklist. These two books are very similar. In fact, I think National Lampoon came out of Harvard Lampoon, so they're from the same tradition. But I find this one much funnier than this one. I may be in a minority here. This has had 74 editions in print. This has had 6. But why do I find this one funnier than this one? I think the writing is just better here. I think the author here is trying to do something with the material and make fun of the original material at the same time. I think this is... It's not terrible. And there are bits that really did make me laugh. But it tries far too hard. But I'm going to say some nice things about it because I'm not going to want to put anyone off reading this book. The Boromir character, I forget what he's called in this, but that is properly funny. He knows he's in a book. He also knows he's going to die in the book. And he is looking sort of half nervously at how much of the book is left. So he's on the page looking at looking across at the rest of the book. So there you have it. That was a surprise. That was incongruous. That was situational. There are some good jokes here. But to be honest, it's the rate of puns that does it for me. If they all hit as jokes, fantastic. Frequently, they don't, and it just drags the book down, in my opinion. Not only is Doon a little less liberal with the puns, it apes Frank Herbert's writing style so much more accurately and savagely than these writers can touch Tolkien's. How it subverts Herbert's writing style. I'll just give you a couple of examples. It has all of the fake extracts from future histories that are going to be written about this time, all written by the Princess Surutan. To those who would be of service, there is a space between a place, not precisely at those places more commonly explored, yet, though it not be obvious, yet it is nevertheless of vital importance. It is neither to the left nor to the right, but may be found immediately below the centre. There, that is it. Now scratch. He also has the characters' voices expertly parodying and subverting Herbert's own style. The characters, when they talk to themselves, do so in italics, just like they do in Doon, and their interior monologues are brilliantly parodying Herbert's style. The realization focused within him in a sudden spark flash computation, and in the clear brilliance of that illumination the boy Paul understood a profoundness. His life, hitherto a child's plaything, devoid of direction, seemingly, or had there been, in fact, always a plan within a plan within a plan, whatever that meant, whatever that meant, whatever that meant. But I think where this works is, although you know the story of both Lord of the Rings and Doon, this one actually made me want to keep reading. This one was more invested in the plot, whereas with Lord of the Rings, it just seems to be something to hang their jokes on. But what do I know? The book I liked less had 10 times the printings of the one I preferred. Writing comedy is hard. It can age badly. Something which is hilarious in one century may not be so the next.
Have you seen that bloody Leonardo da Vinci cartoon?
No.
I couldn't see the bloody joke. Went down there, nothing.
Yeah. Well, of course, you know, Peter, a sense of humour must have changed over the years,
Of course it has, that's why it's not funny.
No. I bet when that Da Vinci cartoon first came out, I bet people were killing themselves. I bet old Da Vinci had an accident when he done it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a testament to how difficult it is that you can only, I think, come up with short lists of funny books. There's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. There's the Discworld series. Catch-22, Cat's Cradle, Jeeves and Worcester. But all of these are within the last century. Thinking about historical comedy, it becomes more difficult. You do have some. Candide by Voltaire, Don Quixote, A Connecticut Yankee, Jane Austen. The fact that some of these you don't immediately think of for their comedic side tells a story in itself. Going back to Shakespeare again, if you've sat in a Shakespeare comedy, you're not laughing at half of the jokes. Some people are, but that is a very knowing laugh. Or maybe those jokes are funny and I'm just too dumb to appreciate them. And maybe this is where I end it, because it is all about your reaction. I find a lot of things funny that other people don't, but by the same rationale. Mrs. Brown's Boys keeps winning all the national television awards for comedy, and I don't think I've ever laughed at that programme. So, no words of advice, more of a plea for help. If you've got a suggestion of a comedy book or something you think is funny and think I might find funny, please just let me know in the comments. And until next time.